So,
Right out of the box, the Athena M
hello.
makes a statement with a
I
control panel, a sleek RGB light
I
strip, and three pre-installed units.
there.
Build quality is rock solid. Modular detachable
There we go.
flaps come
I
every section
decided
easy access,
to
and its minimal design fits perfectly into
stream
modern setup
a
without
bit
taking a
earlier
risk.
than
But airflow is where the
usual
end-to-end really
today.
shines. You get a perforated medic front, side and top dust filter, and a front-mounted PSU layout that keeps cables out of your cooling pad. Pair that with the BTF motherboard support, your build looks clean from every angle. For cooling power, the included Notus fans deliver smooth, quiet airflow, and the case supports up to 9 fans total. And yes, the contact tower handles dual 360mm radiators, top and bottom, giving you water cooling potential, normally reserved for much larger cases. And despite its small size, compatibility is key. GPUs up to 395mm in length, MATX motherboards, and PSUs up to 150mm. The Athena M4M gives you the flexibility of a full tower and a footprint that fits the Athena M4M. Small case, massive. So I've seen, obviously, there's been a lot of discussion about supply and demand regarding DDR5. The prices are skyrocketing. They're skyrocketing at an alarming rate, actually. It's for cost-cutting reasons. A lot of you already know why, but I've seen some discussion about people going, well, it's just a matter of time. GPU pricing catches up because it's got random on it as well. But it's actually not going to happen really with GPUs in the way that's happening with SSDs and DDR5. So it's going to talk about why that is, so you can kind of maybe not feel the necessity to run out right now and maybe give yourself some pain trying to buy a GPU right now, maybe you're not ready to, because you're concerned that the prices are going to go up. So this is definitely not an anti-doom and gloom type of video. It's more or less a, hey, this is the differences between these fabs and the way that they work, so you understand that GPU pricing for the most part is going to be unaffected by the DDR5 stuff. Now, quick high-level stuff. I know you guys have probably heard this before, but if you haven't, we're just going to go through it quickly for those that maybe don't know the why behind why DDR5 is going up. As you guys know, with all of the tariff discussion and all of the dynamic pricing regarding import fees and such, PC building for 2025 has been kind of at an all-time low. I guess you wouldn't think that if you go to a Micro Center, but then again, Micro Center is definitely is a totally an edge case when it comes to trying to gauge whether or not people are buying or building computers. You go to a specific PC and electronics store, it's going to look very, very much like things are great, but that's not the overall census, right? With inflation, cost of living going up over the last several years, even post-COVID, so many things compounded into around 2024, to where a lot of the fabs, there's three major fabs when it comes to RAM manufacturing, whether we're talking about DDR4 or 5, we're talking DDR for graphics cards or other types of RAM for different types of components or electronics. But there's three major manufacturers, Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron. All three of them noticed that they were sitting on supply. There was tons of supply. It wasn't getting eaten up nearly as quickly. I guess we have to go back even a little bit farther. Y'all remember the shortages during the human malware outbreak, right? One of the things that there was a major shortage on during all of that to get things up and running from every genre you can think of, whether it be automotive, electronics, microwaves, refrigerators, it didn't matter, was chips for computers and processors or SoCs or memory. Those two things were very much in high demand and low supply because of obviously the way things went down. Now, these manufacturers really ramped up manufacturing over the last few years, and then it kind of compounded with the slowdown of the actual demand when it comes to PCs, whether it be desktop PCs for gamers or PCs or even servers at that point. So what these manufacturers did naturally is start to slow down manufacturing, because if they're sitting on product, that's waste, that's wasted fab, that's wasted wafers, and it drives the price down. There's a very fine balance to what the pain that the industry can withstand in terms of consumers, and then the pricing that they're going to set that at, right? So consumers kind of determine where the price ends for them. They could charge $1 million for it, no one's going to buy it, it'll just sit there, and of course it's bad business. But if they undercharge for it, then they're going to cut into their margin. So it's a very fine balancing act where consumers and manufacturers sort of figure out this equilibrium, and it happens naturally. It's not something that's ever planned, it just is the way that it happens. And things that can affect that are cost of living, wages, all of that can determine where these products land. So, Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron started sitting on a mountain of product because it started moving a lot slower. So they started to slow down production. There's this constant adjustment of the type of output they're going to do to keep that equilibrium balance in check. Now there was a few issues that happened out in these regions where this manufacturing takes place, which is obviously out in Asia, various storms, power outages, and things that can cause fabs to go offline for a certain amount of time. Now you'd be surprised what just a few hours of offline time can do and can impact when it comes to actual production and output. Because let's say there's a power outage at a facility, which is very rare, but it did happen in this instance. I believe it happened at Samsung. A power outage kind of halts the process, including the actual wafer manufacturing. So those wafers become lost. Now they have power backups and all that sort of stuff, but again, when you have millions of square feet of manufacturing space, how long can battery backup actually last, right? So for whatever reasons, right, the power goes out, they've lost all of that. So that's one thing that compounded on top of one of the three major suppliers having millions of dollars worth of output halted suddenly, and then they start all over. It's very disruptive to the industry. Then the AI. It's funny. I'll say this. I haven't heard anyone bitching about RGB because AI has taken over the number one spot of what we're going to bitch about, right? AI's got its purposes, it's got its uses, it's pretty cool, but it's obviously generated lots of AI slop and lots of distrust in the industry because sometimes you can't trust what you're seeing. Is it AI generated? Is it AI articles? Is it AI photos? So many people fall for AI stuff thinking it's real. So it makes sense that people are going to definitely push back against AI. But what has not pushed back against AI is the tech industry as a whole, going, if we don't get involved in this now, we're going to have FOMO, or fear of missing out. So the amount of AI, like data centers, if you will, we'll just call them data centers for simplicity terms here, you have to build up and scale up these systems to use to generate these models and models to learn on. That requires a lot of horsepower. And initially, the GPU launch for 50 series was heavily impacted by this exact industry happening where we're seeing a bolstering and building up of these AI data centers. So, NVIDIA and AMD and all of them, we already know like
This design
around there regarding everyone kind of
thing
each other's back and having this big
here, so I have like a base if I were to draw it,
is still getting utilized
and also
so
pre-Christmas world.
When 50 series first launched, that is sort of normalized now, but now you're seeing the other side of it for AI. It's GPUs have to plug into something, so now we're talking CPUs, RAM, motherboards, and all that sort of stuff. Now, typically, the motherboards and the CPUs are going to use for this is not something that's going to be quite so data or consumer grade product. But what you're going to notice is that DDR5 is absolutely something that is being utilized by these AI data centers. So what's happening is the actual fabs themselves, or the chip components and stuff, although these data centers are more likely not using consumer-grade DDR5 chips, like this stick specifically, but they are using the components within it that are needed to build the consumer-grade stuff. A lot of them are using ECC registered and other very high-grade, high enterprise level RAM, but that uses the same components needed to build the consumer-grade stuff. Now, if you're a manufacturer, you have some options here. You can say, we can make profit by piecemeal by having 64 gig kits go out, 32 gig kits go out, or we can sell a butt ton of 1 terabyte DDR5 kits to data centers by the thousands at a time and cut out the consumer entirely and just count our cash all the way to the bank, which is exactly what we're dealing with right now. So we have this compounded issue where consumer-grade DDR is not as profitable. It is behind on the supply and demand because the demand shifted to a completely different industry. So as consumers, and we are at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to the hierarchy, what makes sense for sales for a business. Business-to-business sales is always going to outpace business-to-consumer sales at that type of level. Now let's talk about what that means for graphics cards, because this is where I've seen a lot of speculation. People think graphics card pricing is going to absolutely skyrocket now too, because it uses RAM. The type of RAM it uses is completely different. Although we definitely are used to seeing SK Hynix and Samsung RAM In GPUs, you don't really see Micron RAM in there. I'm not saying you don't. I don't know if any of these lower end here use Micron RAM. But
This is like
different process and a
when
completely different
just
for
walking around town, so I'm gonna build
in
a
fact, when I talked about the consumer supply being too low for GPUs, we already experienced that for the GPU. So behind the scenes, talking to one of the manufacturers, they told me one of the holdups for getting consumer product like the 59, 5080, 5070 Ti's and all that at launch to the customers, they literally had the full PCBs and everything ready to go, but they had no RAM to put on the card. That was what was actually holding it back. It wasn't even so much the GPU die or cores themselves, which people assumed NVIDIA was holding back for like their data center product, their AI product. I mean, that is true, but those are really different cuts, the same silicon. So we've already seen the effects of that happening. But what happens with GPUs is you get the different manufacturers, right? Specifically, let's say you're talking about MSI, Gigabyte, Oris, Asus, NVIDIA Founders Edition cards are not made
actually,
by NVIDIA.
yeah.
It's not really important to get.
I mean,
But all of
you know
these
it's a
companies
nice touch, but I'm
predetermine
not gonna be adding the room.
prices on DLM.
There's too many build, just
So
so
prices being locked
having
down.
an inside is more easy for when I drive.
Go up over time because of supply and demand. You've always seen it start high and then come down over time because as the person buys a graphics card, it's going to have an upgrade cycle of maybe 5 years or greater. Once that guy has his card, he's not impacting the supply and demand chain until 4 or 5 years in that moment, right? So we've seen obviously over 2025 now, we're going on to 8 years since the P series launched. The supply has gone up and the demand has gone down. Supply can go up because there's no longer that demand on the AI enterprise side for the GPU. You're seeing that now make a big consumer product, which means they can make more of it now. And the demand has gone down over time because those that just have deep pockets and don't want to wait to stop pricing, and then everyone else that waited for things to sort of normalize, or they just took it entirely and went to a constant. Like all of that is real possibilities. So that's why you're not going to see graphics card pricing shoot up because of this. This is just the spin the wheel of what's going to get this time when it comes to the PC industry. Every year we have something that happens that affects the PC industry in a very catastrophic way. I've been doing this for over 13 years now. It seems like the last 5, and it's not just driven, but it seems like the last 5 has just been plagued with either companies doing things or complete mindset shifts of ownerships of various companies, like NVIDIA as an example, and then supply and demand obviously moving around. Now storage is going to be affected too, not as bad as the RAM though, like DDR5 and all of that is definitely more of a performance component, which would be affecting these build-outs, but obviously these build-outs need storage as well, so that's another supply and demand thing. Not to mention one is the holidays, which is another thing that compounds all of this. A lot of retailers will take opportunity to mark up prices during holidays. Obviously, Sterling Micro Center don't really do that. Like, they do some crazy bundle deals and such to try and bring prices down. We were just in Micro Center grand opening a week delayed, but still related, whatever. And it was insane how expensive the RAM was. Like, it's the first time I really looked at it and I thought, oh my gosh. But when it comes to GPU pricing and stuff, we'll get back to that again, how it's completely different fab. The type of RAM that the AI cards are using that's actually very, very important is HBM, or high bandwidth memory. So that is like I said, totally different ball game than what's on your consumer grade GPUs and such. GPUs could still potentially be affected though by supply and demand, not at a manufacturing level, but just from a more independent, small build-outs, small AI developers or AI model developers that are using
I'm allowed to break the grid if it's above.
So obviously 4090s with 24 gigs of RAM, 5090s with 32 gigs of RAM, those are cards that are going to be a lot more desirable than say anything 16 gigabytes or less. Because how much of the model can you fit into memory, which is the most important thing. But I thought it was important to kind of do this video, one, because everyone's talking about it, which means it's obviously a hot topic. But two, like I said, I've seen some of the concerns that GPU pricing will soon follow, and I really don't think that's going to be the case. So I'm the guy that's like, hey, you go out and buy something before it gets, becomes completely too expensive. The only reason repeat pricing or availability might be impacted just because we're going to the holidays. That's really about the only reason I can think of. Even then, um, based on the inventory I see online at Amazon, at Newegg, at even Best Buy, 9%, I don't think there's any issues we're going to be able to go to a store or a retailer and just get throughout the store. So I would be concerned. All right, guys. Well, trust me, we're all as frustrated as you, especially with channels like this one. We're all about trying to bring in as many people as possible to the PC space so everyone can start building and enjoying and playing games and learning to program and code and do whatever else. But it's just seeming like the entire universe is against us the last 2 years. It's like, when will it end? I just want to get back to, you know what, for me, the glory days of PC was, at least when we YouTube. It started with like 2016. 2016, when Pascal had just launched a 10 series, you could build an entire crazy gaming rig for under $1,500 and include top tier products. Now you build a mid-range gaming tower and it costs $1,500 plus. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully, AI companies will all have simultaneous heart attacks and then we can go back. You've rinsed?
Yeah.
Rinsed the movie's garage?
I don't know, I can't figure out what.
The comments? I like seeing the comments now, everybody says, oh,
Giant peppermint.
I never worked on it. Now here we go. What you do?
I'm gonna get a look. See if you can go there.
Okay.
This is so great. One of the things I said, the greatest, I'm gonna show them all of the, it's like, you know, it's real, I'm gonna try. Like I said, it's really good, and you know, I put it out there. It's my dream car. And I feel so connected to it. 1987, you know, D-Max only 527 above. They were the first
I'm just gonna do some.
okay, like, I don't get it, boxy, 80s, but there's a box going on underneath, but why is that?
Metal. Actually, no. Make it not natural. Fine, make it natural there. But maybe, like, over in this corner, we have a, peppermint. Or, like, we have a candy cane farm. It has a little stub and then a fully grown one, and then maybe like another stub, and one that's almost fully grown. And well, I'm gonna build the house next to it, but we it's not a town without a giant lava tub, or it's not a. It needs a lava pit, or a honey pit rather. I forgot how deep bedrock was on this preset. Also, it's right across from the Honeysmith because yes. Also because you can just get lava from anywhere. Needs to be gingerbread underground. Hmm. Make it seem more rounded. Hey, wait, that's supposed to be gingerbread. I mean, they probably won't show up on the drawing, but I am streaming. Sorry. We'll give it the stuff and add ones. Like halfway there. Over here. Boom. Farm. I'm actually gonna remove that. CHAOS. Just had to show my brother or how to spell user. What? It's true. Andrew, it's actually true. This is gonna be gingerbread tower, but some fresh candy cane. Maybe this one can be liquid. So actually need. When it hits 30, or like, I'm gonna switch over to the survival world though. I didn't mean dark. Building. Alright, hit 30 minutes. I know! I didn't mean 30! I said that twice! I'm glad to change chat because I know what you would comment. Right, it's 5 minutes. Oh. Wow. Already survival time? I was gonna stay true to my word. Wait, do I have any? Yeah, I have tokens. I'm gonna try my hand at strip mining. Or actually, I'm gonna put that back. I'm gonna head back to base so I can craft another stone pickaxe. How do we craft the grindstone? Stone slab and 2 sticks. Can get the stick part. Okay, grab these 2 pickaxes. Do not smell. One more string. So if I encounter a spider, I'm going to kill it. Hold on, I feel like if I have any broken of any of my tools, I can just back to full. Broken hoe? No. Broken axe? Yes. Right. No, I do not have any food. That's a horrifying drop. Alright, so where are all the animals? There's a pig. Mushrooms? I was just wondering, because I supposed to even be able to get here. They spawn there? That's bad. Zombies and stuff. Yeah, no, I see. A single spider. It's on the side. I would do that if I had a water bucket so I could like water myself down easy. I don't know that. Cause people with seeds, right? Or not seeds, wheat, right? I I have the wheat right here. Get rid of the fence. Okay. First baby sheep all game. Yay. There we go. house. Definitely. I could craft a boat. So, what I'm gonna do?
Wednesday off? What's your
We get every day after Tuesday. No, I have 2 boats. I'm gonna take out the saplings. I was allowed to take. Gonna check to see if this island has anything good. Oh, it's wolves, so probably very little sheep. Actually, I'm gonna head all the way back just so I can use the chest boat. No idea why there's a dolphin there. Also, never mind. I'm not gonna miss that today. Let's go sailing. getting there today. And maybe if I have enough time there. We will. Actually, nah. I'm gonna head to that big mountain. And I thought I was going to climb up it, but apparently no. That's, that just looks, yeah. Oh. But, pretty cool. You've got to be kidding me. My inventory is full. But at least I'm pretty sure I have room. So, oh. Um, actually. If I please find my base then they'll grow. More vines for free. Also, I'm gonna put that there so I can wait. Put my birch sapling. Just gonna leave that branch in there. Birch sapling. Vines. And feathers. I mean, I got that on purpose. Oh, I realized it's late in the day. Early. Okay, I've done